36 officially in right now, with 6 others committed, two significant commitments that just were not able to complete all the paperwork and get all the signatures and get it to us in time to mention them. So I think by tomorrow we could easily on the website go from 36 to 42, and it wouldn't be unusual for us, as you know, to try to go from 42 until the end of the school year, somewhere in the 50s would work for us. Our recruiting retention numbers, we have 106, I believe, right now on campus working out, and we normally try to bring enough players in that we start the season at 150, and that affords us the opportunity through attrition and retention to end up with about 25 seniors each year with the plan we put together. I think we're on course to do that. There was one late letter of intent that came through. I'm not sure I'm going to accept it. Let me read parts of it to you. I, James Meisel, hereby announce my intent to play football for Ashland University in the fall of 2013. There's no clock in Division II. He said, I have 4 years of eligibility remaining and am confident I can be an asset to your program. He said, I started JV ball back in the day, and believe it or not, I have not lost my straight-ahead speed. I will work hard. I will join the Gridiron Club, catch balls when the kickers are warming up. All I ask for is a chance, Coach. Thank you for your time and your consideration. Jim Meisel, I would like to wear number 86, same as Hines Ward. So, we ask every recruit a couple basic questions before we sign the recruit. We ask about the recruit. Can he play? Jim Meisel, no. Well, experience is cheating ball. Does he have a burning desire to be a great player? I would think not at this point in his career. Is he tough, mentally tough, physically tough? No. Is he a leader? Well, obviously, he's runs a very important department here on campus. Is he a team player? The fact that he asked for number 86, that makes me wonder. Will he compete? And does he have great character? Jim, I will take this into consideration, and seeing the fact that my youngest child, my last child, is getting married this summer, and it will take place on campus. We may be able to negotiate a deal. Let's have some leverage at this point. We can consider. So, again, a special thank you to all the folks that are here and all the people that are listed here. We'll try to run through this and don't want to leave anyone out. But when you put a class together, it's a group effort. So many people, so involved. WC is here with admissions and what they do and their people do, and he's done personally. I mean, we really greatly appreciate. And our professors, just Sunday, Super Bowl Sunday, we had our last recruit on campus. It's the last official day you can have a recruit on campus. A young man from Willoughby South who we really wanted to sign, and we did sign. He's an engineering interest, and yet we thought if we could have him visit with a professor in the mathematics and physics field, that we might be able to convince him there's some other opportunities and options. And Dr. Michael came over on Super Bowl Sunday at noon to visit with this young man. He just did a wonderful job with he and his parents. And again, that kind of extra effort from the faculty is so important when it comes down to the recruiting process. The coaching staff this year, and I'm not going to take time to introduce each coach. We've got a good staff, a great staff. Most of the time, I get involved with the athlete, and the work's been done. All the legwork's been done. They ask me to go in and kind of negotiate the deal at the end. But the relationships have been built, and our guys do a great job of building relationships. And anytime you hire a coaching staff, you got to be able to coach first. And if you look at our team, we finish in the top offensively and defensively in just about every category in the conference in the country. So we can coach a little bit. Can you recruit? You look at this list and you consider the players we've signed the last 2 years. There's no question we've got great recruiters. But you not only want great coaches and great recruiters, you want great people. And just finished a book by Grant Taft titled Beyond the Game, and he said, it's quoted there, Billy Graham made a statement one time at a revival. He said that football coach in general will have more influence in 1 year in his life than most people do in a lifetime. The power of influence of a coach on young people is so important and should not be overlooked. And we've got great coaches that have a big positive influence on the young men they coach. There was just a mother here the last official visit And as she was leaving, and we hear this story over and over again. She said, basically, my son was born, I was 18, a single parent, father's never been in the picture, high school coach has done a great job being a role model. I want to send my son somewhere where he can have that same thing in college. And I feel good about your staff, was the last part of the statement. Yeah, and the young man committed. And so it's so important we have that. Dave Elliott, our recruiting coordinator, is an unassuming, very dedicated, very committed football coach with great experience. We're sitting in a home of a young man who committed, a big tight end from Wadsworth, and I was telling the story, the Harbaugh story, about how Jack grew up at Crestline, and I knew Jack's brother, who was a long-time high school football coach, and talking about this and that, and Dave just mentioned in passing, well, yeah, Jack Harbaugh was my position coach at Michigan, just in passing he mentioned that. So to have that kind of experience, and it's been a tough, actually, for Coach Elliott. His father, Pete, passed away right before the recruiting season started. Any of you that's been around football all know Pete Elliott's a legend, ran the Pro Football Hall of Fame for many years. His experience in the college and professional ranks in football, he's impacted a bunch of people. And so for Dave to fight through that and still be able to put the kind of class he did, it's a great compliment to him, and we're really appreciative of that, Dave. Let's go ahead and move forward just real quick before we mention the players. We obviously had the kind of year that happens only because there's a tradition to build on. And Coach Martinelli, and as a Hall of Fame coach, and the great teams that he coached here prior to the teams I've coached, it makes. I stood right here when the 1972 team was being recognized as one of the last undefeated teams. And to say that team did influence our team, our players, and to be able to aspire to do the kind of things some of the teams have done in the past, tradition is so important. And we just try to do is build on that tradition. And we've done that with our playoff run, three national playoffs in the last 5 years. Our All-American, we put some of the stuff. We've had 4 first-team AFC All-Americans. That's the top 22 players in the country in the last 7 years, since 2007. It's 2007, actually, this was the last 5 years. And it's, it goes without saying that to be the Division II program in the state, you won't see too many Division II football programs that have had any postseason experience, or any AFC All-Americans. So those things are important to us, that we will continue to build on that. And also the All-American, Donnie Dada, again, academic All-American this year, and we don't want to understate how important that is. I mean, to have a young man that's a 3.8, 3.9 integrated math major, Ashland Scholar, represent your program, and as a captain, play the way he did. The Donnie Dadais or the players of the year, like the Taylor Housewright that we have in our program, it makes it easy to sign up the next guy, because we put them out in front when we recruit. So we're building on the tradition and obviously the geography of our school. Tradition, geography make it so easy. We've talked about the great high school football that's played in a 100-mile radius of Ashland, Ohio, and how important it is for us to keep great players going. We don't have to go a whole lot further than that. When you see that map, you notice we don't go much further than that. We do have one player who signed from Illinois, and one of those players we're kind of waiting on from clear in the West Coast. I think we'll get tomorrow. If he ends up signing, it'll be America, because when he got off the plane, flying in from California, it was about 20 degrees and 0 wind factor. So, but I do think we're still going to get that paperwork before it's over. But we don't have to go too far. With the geography and tradition we have, it lends itself to really having great recruiting classes. And I mentioned earlier today, did a couple interviews prior to this, and talked with some of the folks who are coming in. We really felt that the last 2 recruiting classes had been notched up to a point where they were as good as we've had since we've been here. And if you look at those players, and a number of those players that played early and impacted our team, particularly last year, you can see that's true. A lot of those young players, freshmen and sophomores, were key players in what we were able to do a year ago. I believe that this to be true, that this class is every bit as good, if not better, than the last 2 classes. And it's not without chance. It's the 3 classes we recruited to this building. Facilities are so important to recruiting. And it makes it so much easier to walk a player in here who's hanging on to that Division I dream and seeing all the great Division I facilities across the state, across the country, and walk in here and say, well, this is much different. Sometimes even better. And it gets it started for us. Now, everything else is going to be right. The academics and staff and expectations to win, but facilities have really helped, and we also know what they mean in terms of retention, in terms of development of our players, and those are the kind of things you have to do if you're going to continue to win. Let's get out through this list quick. What we've done is a little bit different. Instead of taking time to highlight every player, it's a little long at the end. Our video staff is going ahead and put a link on each player, so you can get to this. If I'm not mistaken, Dave, we can get to this eventually in some kind of a press release, or website, or YouTube, or Facebook, or some social media. You can find this, and then when you find that player, you can push the link and actually go right to his highlights. Is that correct? Okay. So that's how we'll get it done here. This young man, first player we're going to talk about, Davon Barrow from Eastmore High School, is one of those guys who ended up committing to a Division I program that overcommitted, being available at the end, and kind of got in at the end, created a relationship with him. And again, you walk into the school, and you talk to the librarian, you talk to the teacher, you talk to the athletic director, and everybody just swears by the kid. Not just because he's a great player, but the librarian said, "What's in here, coach? He's real." And I think this kid, I put a lot of pressure on him. I think he'll come in here and he'll be a captain before it's over. He'll be an impact player. I related to Justin Hood when Justin walked in here, the kind of character. He's just bigger. He's just bigger than what he was. But it's that kind of character, it's that kind of presence. He's engaged in a way. He was over at the Dow Center. I think you were taking a round of events, and one of our trustees walked out, and they struck up a conversation, talked for 20 or 30 minutes, and just became engaged in terms of, because he wants to be in the business field. And again, I think those are the kind of things that happen. These are kind of players we're able to convince to come to our campus that can make a difference. We had to step it up at safety. Again, we lost a couple at the end. We weren't expecting to lose, and so again, signing Davon was a big hit for us. It's a big part of what we needed to do. I promise not to take that long on each player. We'll be here for a long time. Stephen Best from Midview, a defensive lineman at 6'3", 250 pounds. Isaiah Blevins from North Union. Dr. Floyd's got whiskers and actually almost a full beard. So I know that's what you're looking for on that defensive line. He asked to be announced last night at the basketball game at 275 pounds, not 260. He's gained weight, he said. So he's planning on coming in here about 285 pounds and playing his inside positions. And we expected he was a high guy on the defensive line board right out of the gate, and we went full speed ahead for him from the very beginning. To the very end. And again, the other thing it helps is Joe Wasserbeck played at this school, and Joe had a great career here for us at tight end, and obviously I think their farms butt up against one another. Here in North Union, everybody lives on a farm. But it helped to have a guy like Joe down there saying, I had a great experience there, and that'd be a good place for you to go. Austin Bruns, we can announce we got the paperwork right. Quarterback from Coldwater. I think this is the last one to come through 5 minutes before I started. 6'4", actually about 225, not 205. Had a chance to watch him play basketball this weekend, and probably been recruited to play basketball here. Although he was a leading scorer for their team, and he uses up all his fouls. But he's, his dad's the head basketball coach. But he has been a tremendous player in the state, tremendous quarterback in the state. Obviously, state championship quarterback at Coldwater last year, and a big physical type of guy with a big arm. And a guy who, again, we can talk a little bit about quarterbacks in general at the end, but he's going to be one of those guys that we're going to have to look at in terms of being in the mix. Harry Durval from Brush High School, a 5'8", 170-pound tailback. We ended up signing 3 tailbacks in this class. Jordan Dye from Tiffin Columbian. His father is a coach at Tiffin University, and he's coming here to major in sports communication. Javon Epsey from Perkins High School, another one of those great big defensive, offensive linemen. It's a wrestler. I think we've got, we can't let Coach know about the wrestling team. I think we've got 2 or 3 heavyweights and a couple 2-time state champions. And once he gets over our list, I'm sure he's going to get over here and recruit from the football team. Frank Esep from Vermilion High School, 6'3", 279 pounds, offensive lineman. Brandon Jensen from Streetsboro. His brother plays basketball for us, Benjamin. And again, he's a guy, it's a linebacker, 6'3", 220 pounds, very athletic, runs around real well. Could play off the edge, probably going to start him inside. Just a good, tough, physical, hard-nosed football player. Dominic Junta from Willoughby South. This is the young man that we had here Super Bowl Sunday. And it was the engineering issue we were trying to get over. It was us or Toledo. And they had sold him strong in the engineering program, and we were able to convince him at the end this was the right fit for him. Matt Duffy from Willoughby South, an alum football coach there, was really helpful in the process. He couldn't tell Dominic where to go to school, but we all know where his heart was. And I talked to Matt today, and he's really excited about Dominic coming here. And we think he's the kind of guy who could anchor the inside of our line for a long time. He's a tough, hard-nosed, mean football player, which you can't have enough of those kinds of guys. Devon Glover from Elyria, wide receiver, quick, real good, quick feet. Luke Hackney from Bishop Reedy, 5'11", 273 pounds, pre-med major. E.J. Jennings from Hilliard Davidson. A couple of these running backs that committed to us, it surprised us a bit. We with the two returners that we have, with Taylor and McCune, and both being all-league players, both being as good as there is in Division II, we thought it might be tough to go get the running back that we really wanted to get. And so we listed the top 5 guys in the state that hadn't committed to Division I, and we thought, let's go after 1 and 2. If we get one of the two, that's great. If we don't get one, we can live with the guys we've got right now for a couple more years. We've got some time with the 2 returners, and we ended up getting 1 and 2 on the board, which was pretty incredible. This is a big kid, 220 pounds, playing in a North-South game, and again, an exciting play. He's a cousin of the quarterback who went to Saginaw that we've watched play the last couple of years. So just an excellent football player. Kyle Kearney from Triway High School, the alma mater of Coach Doug Geiser. You better get him right, Coach Geiser, with all the connections we have at Triway. I think he had 2 brothers, didn't he? He had 2 brothers that played at Owen. They went to school here. Kyle Kelly from Amherst Steel. Coach DeFranco, again, another alum. It goes without saying, anytime you've got those alums out there, the connection that we have, and experience they had when they were here, helps us to be able to convince these young men to be a good place for them to come play. Nick Kraspansky from North Warrenton is a linebacker who only played for a year, but we'll talk a little about that pass offense here in a second. Michael Amana from St. Ignatius High School, another quarterback. It's a high-profile player. We were talking earlier about maybe the 3 best quarterbacks in Cleveland, and the young man from Mentor probably ranked as high as anyone. He ended up going to North Carolina, where he ended up going to State, North Carolina State. But the other 2 in Cleveland ended up committed to us. If you're going to rank the quarterbacks up there, Michael's a left-hander. Only played a year at Ignatius. Only played his senior year, which isn't unusual there. Probably hurt him at the Division I schools. The recruiting calendar in Division I now has moved back so far where they're all taking juniors, and if you're not playing as a junior, a lot of times their quarterback positions are gone, and they're still available. Michael had a great year, and he's got great feet, good hips. He's an explosive runner as well as a real accurate thrower, and coming from a great program. Conception of what they do at Ignatius with Coach Kyle and that offense is advanced, it's college-like. And he's convinced he can come in here and compete to win the position. Zach Lieutenant from Oak Hill High School, a defensive lineman off the edge. If Isaiah is going to be a guy we're looking at inside, Zach was going to be a guy we're looking at outside. Just a bullet, explosive, dynamic guy. It's going to be real hard for the tackles in this league to block, and he's just begun to grow. We see his upside, his strength, and his size, and his explosiveness even getting better and better all the time. His high school coach, Dan Schultz, is the father of our long snapper. So that, again, helps to have those guys around. Carl Lent from North Royalton High School, wide receiver, another the North Royalton trio that's making their way to Ashland. Anthony McCarthy is a kicker from Massillon, Washington High School. Dean Memphis from Berea High School, a 6', 210 linebacker. Matt Murphy from Parma High School, 6'3", 258 offensive lineman. He's been here for a lot of our games, a lot of our camps. Went through our recruiting process. We project him. He's got a chance now. This is a guy we think he's going to have to redshirt and develop in the program, but eventually he can find his way onto the field. We're excited about the fact that he's coming. Joel Page from Whetstone, 6'3", 307-pound offensive lineman. Michael Purcell from Cyrus High School, wide receiver. Chris Rance from Lutheran West, a running back at 190 pounds, pre-med major. Jimmy Rodenberg from Moeller High School is a linebacker. His father's the head football coach at Moeller High School. They had a pretty good year at Moeller High School. They were Division I state champs. And the fact that Coach Rodenberg decided to send Jimmy here to play linebacker for Coach Rose, the connection has a lot to do with it, obviously. He couldn't think of a better guy for his son to play for. So, but he's coming up here 5'10", 233 pounds. Rondell Sadler from Oak Forest in Illinois, linebacker, 5'11", 195 pounds. Guy Schuler, another one of Coach DeFranco's players from Amherst Steel. Nick Simi from Wadsworth High School, one of these guys that you think having the great track program here, Jed's throw program. He's a thrower. His dad's a throw coach at Wadsworth. Nick was one of the top-ranked guys going into the season, and some of you guys have followed the Ashland Arrows know he was hurt in that game, and didn't get back until the last game of the year. And so a lot of Division I teams dropped off on him, which I think was a huge mistake because at the tight end position, what he brings that position, his skill, his size, and his explosiveness is exactly what we're looking for. And we're excited about the fact that he can come here and he can also throw for Judd. And again, that had a lot to do with us being able to convince him to come to Ashland. And for whatever reason, athletes from Wadsworth seem to do well. Like those two on the women's basketball team, they're having a really good career. It's just, it helps. Experience. Vance Settlemeyer from Findlay High School at 5'11", 185 pounds. An outstanding player. One of those running backs, like I said, we had ranked really high. He's the all-time leading rusher at Findlay High School. Bill Buckingham called me last night. I didn't realize that, but he's a nephew, a great nephew of Bill's. And we didn't use that in the recruiting process, but he was excited to hear that Vance was coming to school here. And it was tough. There was some issues again with Major that we had to work out and some obstacles to overcome, but we stayed with it and was able to get his commitment at the end. And a guy that, like we said, has a chance. He's more of the spread type. Although he did play in some I, where some of the other tailbacks are more of the big physical downhill. He's a guy who can catch the ball, come out of the backfield, and has a lot of skill. Bryce Stats from Danville High School. The pride of Danville, Ohio. They made it to the Final Four this year, is that right? So they were excited about the fact that Bryce is coming to play Division II football here at Ashland. David Stewart from Elyria. He was the #1 offensive lineman we recruited from beginning to end at the tackle position. We're looking at a top tackle, top center, and Damon was that guy at tackle. He's got really good feet. We think his best football's in front of him. He's athletic. He's got a chance to be an excellent player for us. We need to get him in the weight room, get him a little bigger, a little stronger. It's not like we have to play him right away next year, although he's the kind of guy, ability-wise, he's going to push the guys in front of him. Travis Tarnowski from North Royalton. Again, out of the quarterback trio that we talked about, what a career he had there. What a job. I mean, we're talking with the players and coaches at Willoughby South. They go undefeated in the regular season, and North Royalton goes in there with Travis at quarterback, and they just can't stop him. And he did that to a bunch of people. He's a good player. He's exciting. A lot of you remember that quarterback they had at Lake Erie a couple years ago from Brunswick. And Travis is very similar to Baker. I mean, he makes plays with his feet. He keeps the ball alive. His eyes are always downfield. He's making great reads. He's smart. He's got all that going for him, and excited about being here and competing for the position at quarterback. Joe Tays from Massillon Perry. Would we say two-time state champion in wrestling? I guess that's not all bad. He's at fullback, 225 pounds. Wallace Thomas from Whitehall High School. Defensive back. Corey Timmons from Springfield, one of the safeties, again, that we really worked hard to sign. He played some tailback early in his career, moved into safety, he runs the alley really well, he's got some length to him. And from Springfield, the tradition of Springfield High School and the great players they've had over the years. Wes Yoder from Fairless High School, 6'1", 220-pound linebacker, and that's the group that we're able to announce at this time. I thought I'd go through it quick enough that we save some time at the end for questions. I'm glad to answer some questions. All I've got left on here is the schedule, which I think we've passed out to you at the end. And obviously our spring calendar, that's right around the corner. Make sure you get over here every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday in April. We practice from 3:30 to 5:30. We scrimmage the first 3 Saturdays in April at 9 o'clock in the morning. And then our spring game and our alumni golf outing will be on Friday, the 26th of April. So that's kind of next on the calendar for Ashland Eagle football. I'll be glad to open up some questions at this time about our players, our recruiting process, or where we're at, as a football program. Is that good? Good. Let's check with the video coach.
Coach, about Jim Meisel, where would you like to play?
I think he wants to be a wide receiver, and as you saw, we've signed a bunch of really good receivers, and we've got a lot of returning players at that position, so it would really be hard for him to break into the lineup.
Coach, those young quarterbacks committed to coming in the summertime, doing a lot of work there.
Quarterbacks are committed. I've been asked this question, and we've been asking ourselves, the staff, this question. How did this happen? This wasn't by plan and design that you're going to go out and sign 3 top quarterbacks in the state. Here's how it happened, quite honestly. The last 2 quarterbacks who played here were first-team All-American, were Player of the Year in the conference, were either in camp or trying to get in camp, and led their team to playoffs, to national playoffs. We've got life-size murals of them painted on the wall downstairs at the quarterback position. And I think quarterbacks in the state are smart enough today to look around and say, well, if Division I school missed me, where can I go play in a Division I system where quarterbacks in the past have had success, that's quarterback friendly, I can stay healthy, that they have guys up front that can protect me, and I get a chance to go to the next level and win. And we fit. I mean, we just kind of fit that profile. So as it happened, we initiated some of this recruiting, and the quarterbacks initiated some of it. And honestly, I felt more like I was interviewing quarterbacks than recruiting quarterbacks. Can you play for us? Can you play early for us? Or what would you do to play early for us? All those kinds of questions. And boy, to cross the board, all 3 of those quarterbacks, I can be your quarterback next year. And I said, it's going to be tough. We've got some young guys who are going to have an advantage of having a spring and a fall, and a couple of guys have been here for a couple of years. But I believe I can play next year. Because really, there's no one in our program with experience. We lost 2 seniors. So it's not like they have to come in and beat on somebody with experience. So they realized that. And they all said, hey, I'll be there. We'll be down in the spring whenever we can to sit through your meetings, which is legal, and watch your spring. And as soon as summer comes and we're released to work with your team, we'll be down there, throwing with your receivers, learning the offense. So when camp hits, we want to compete for the position. And all I could promise any of the quarterbacks we recruited was the opportunity to play. And the fact that we're going to play the best player. We've got a lot of players coming back on offense, and that's the other thing they noticed. They look at the thing. We had 10 guys who started a lot of games coming back on offense. And when you count the number of fullbacks and tight ends and receivers that play, all 5 guys up front. And so they know there's a great supporting cast, and it's an opportunity for somebody to come in. There's a real good chance we're going to have a young quarterback next year. Where there's a real good chance it could be a redshirt freshman or a true freshman. And which is good, because if we can continue to have continuity at that position, that's what you want. You don't want to be changing quarterbacks every year. So I'll have my eyes wide open. They're going to come in here and try to impress me and the team and win the position. And they're committed to doing that. And all I can do is say, we're going to give you the opportunity to do that. Yeah.
How do you evaluate these new teams that came in the league? How do you evaluate those in terms of, say, improvement for next year?
In terms of how they recruited?
Yes.
I think they're real active in the recruiting. I think they amped up the recruiting process. They understand that to compete, they're going to have to get out and be more active and be earlier in the calendar and not just wait around at the end to see who's left. And that was the case across the board. And it made it more competitive for us. We didn't always get that B and C list player that we were trying to get in the past, and maybe being able to get less of a commitment scholarship-wise or as a walk-on, because they were a lot more involved and active in that with that player. And quite honestly, those schools in Ohio that are in our league, they were involved with just about every one of our A-list players, which made it's not as though we didn't sign those players, but again, it made it competitive for us to sign those players, and we had to do things right. I think they'll be better. I think the fact that we've got as many Division II schools in the state of Ohio now, it's going to be better for the football here. It's got more opportunities for those high school players to get scholarships, and that's great because we all know the more opportunity you get with the cost of college. But, you know, it's a win-win for everyone. Dr. Fix, did you have a question?
That was part of it. What I was going to ask is, with the Division II, the number of Division II schools in Ohio that created, you mentioned a couple of years ago that it's going to be harder to recruit. Did you not? Was there any A player that you did not get that you wanted?
No. We not to the new schools. We did get beat on a transfer. I think the evening you and I were together. I just got the news.
Here's some comfort in that. You know, the person that you didn't get was from Columbus and didn't know about Findlay, but the person who lives in Findlay is coming here. So I think that should be comforting.
And to be quite honest, is we just heard the announcement that we lost a young man who was thinking about coming to school here and went to one of the schools in our league. And but we were really quick to move on because I quickly got on the phone to a running back and I said, "Would you like to talk to the president of our university?" And that doesn't happen a whole lot. And he did, and obviously committed here. So those kinds of things make a difference. It just makes a difference when you have that kind of access and you get professors willing to come in on Sunday and college presidents were willing to get on the phone and make a call to a player. Yes?
You have the opportunity at the D2 level to work kids out before you commit. What are your criteria for working a kid out, and how much of that do you do?
That's a good question. Every athlete that comes in here that we recruit, we work out, except the no-brainer. The absolute Division I guy we know he's there. We don't have to. Or if he's nicked up or he's a basketball player getting ready for a game that night. There are a few exceptions, but the vast majority, 9 out of 10, vast majority of players, we do work out. And we do a couple things. First thing we do is we put them through drills with our current players. We want to see them run through the bags with our big guys. We want to see them run around with our receivers, throw the ball with our quarterbacks. So we can compare what we've got now physically right there in the same picture. And so that's one thing we do. And we want to see them interact with our players and compete in drills with our players. And then we put them through a series of tests. And we put them on the bench to see upper body strength. We have them jump to see lower body explosiveness. We get some accurate heights and weights because all high school coaches lie about how big they are. So we're going to really find out how big they are. But every athlete that comes through here, we do put through a series of tests. Doc, here's the danger now, and because you can't do that in Division I. When I first got here in Division II, we over-evaluated a couple times. We got off a couple players because their numbers weren't great. They didn't have a great shuttle, or they didn't triple jump real well, or the bench press wasn't strong. And we as a staff sit down and say, hey, listen, be real careful. Make sure, first of all, you believe what you see on film. Is he a player on film? Is he produced on film? Okay, allow that workout to help a player, but don't completely disqualify a guy because he has a bad day in the gym. Because some guys are great players out there and they're just not going to ever be good, great on numbers. But it does help us to get a little better feel for what's going on.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Coach, does junior college fit into the recruiting plans at all?
We did. We haven't got it yet, but we're pretty sure we're going to get it. And it was one of the cases where we had a position, and Reggie coached out there at the junior colleges, and we said, listen, let's do some research. Let's find a guy that fits, somebody that character-wise what we're looking for. Academically, it can work. Karen sent some transcripts over. She said, no, okay. It was like, so he's okay. And in criminal justice, this works. He can get his degree. He's going to be up, And so then you go after him. Now, the problem you have is the expense. It's a $700 plane ticket, it's this and it's that, and you can't do a lot of that because the expense is involved. But if you've got a great need and you find a player that fits, and he comes here and has a good experience, regardless how cold it is, so it's really just spot-specific, a lot of research, whether it's Mike, and here's the sell. Mike McMillan, junior college player, captain. He's going to try to get into a pro camp this year. Jarris Pendleton, junior college player, gets drafted. Okay, so if you only have a couple guys and you can give them the support that they need when they get in this community from halfway across the country, then they're going to have more success, particularly if they can get the work done academically.
Any new rules in football for next year?
No, I don't think the rules committee's really come up with anything new or different at this point. There's a lot of still questions on blocking below the waist, and we keep the kickoff line the same where as it is. But I don't think, being at the convention, I don't think we really changed anything major. It's not a year we're going to do that. I'll tell you one thing that we go. Yep.
How about your punting game?
It's a great question.
I know what your philosophy was going into this season. Will it remain?
No funny.
I'm blessed. There's a state coaches clinic this weekend, Orlando at the end of the month, on 4th down offense. The spread scan punt. So, and basically the talk goes, if you don't have a punter and a field goal kicker, this is a really good formation for you to use. In our spread scan punt last year, we punted it 6 times out of that formation. Out of the 6, 4 went inside the 5-yard line. We were in net 37. In that same formation, we faked it 12 times. We ran a play. We converted 8 of those. One we did convert was against Notre Dame. It was 4th and 22. We got 21 yards. So it was very effective and very efficient. And out of those 8 times that we went for it on 4th down and scan punt, we scored 4 of those times. And honestly, those, if you remember the 2 against Wayne State that we put inside the 5-yard line, maybe win the game for us. Puts them in the hole, wins the game.
That punter's not here anymore. So.
Well, you don't have to be a punter. He wasn't a punter. Scooby did it. He was in the back. He did it at Northern Michigan in the Dome because we were playing our backups. He hit it inside the 5-yard line. He wasn't a punter. So whoever ends up being the quarterback, we're going to still work on that. Who's punt out of that formation? Because I think it's a real weapon to have. Now, it'd be nice if we could find a field goal kicker where we wouldn't have to get all the way to the 10-yard line before we attempt it, and a punter that we wouldn't have to scheme up the system. But we've got some guys coming in that we'll take a look at. But
is that part of your philosophy? You think when you're recruiting these quarterbacks, get to see what they do?
See if they can punt. Yeah, test it, check them out, see if they can punt. That'd be good. Yes.
Outside of quarterback, what were your biggest areas of concern, and do you feel like you addressed them?
Yes, safety, huge. And we really feel good about the guys we signed at safety. The 2 guys at the defensive line we had to sign because we lost a couple of good players there. Losing Michael Berry and Tyler Huska was huge. We had to replace those 2 guys. Obviously losing Brian Gamble at the end was a surprise and really hurt. Dada graduating. Those were 2. And then again, like I said, we had to go out and find ourselves a big tight end. The offensive line position, it's really important that we have a couple guys we know we can count on in the future. And so as a whole, yeah, I'd say we met the needs as a staff. So we sat down and said, this is what we need to go after. And quite honestly, as we ranked those guys on our big board, it just seemed like every time it was 1 and 2 or 1 and 3 or 2 and 3 that we were able to sign. So it was always the guys we had evaluated was the highest, which is good. The one thing we do, and again, Karen helped me with this, and I'll just mention, because this is something that's going to pay big dividends for us. We went back through and looked at every player we recruited the last 9 years in the off-season. Every player that come here to play football. And then we looked at what success they had on the field or in the classroom, or didn't have on the field or in the classroom. And we tried to come up with some markers in terms of what was the Ashland profile, what was the Ashland kid. What were the common characteristics of those players that had been successful here? What majors were they in? What areas were they from? What were their family dynamics, their socioeconomic status? What type of school did they come from? And so we put that profile together so as we go out into the high schools, we go into the communities, and obviously you're looking for guys who can play, but do they meet that profile? If they do, we've seen the last 9 years, those are the guys who are here, that have success here, and that do well in the classroom and do well in the field. And so that kind of information, if you've got it available to you as a recruiter, is going to help. And so it had a lot to do with how we targeted certain players and what players we went after. And like I mentioned a year ago, it's not always the best player. Honestly, it's the right player. It's the Ashland player. The player's going to come in here and do things right for you, and do things right in the community, and do things right in the classroom. And we've had a bunch of that going on. It's a big part of the reason we're in this building is the way our players have handled themselves both on and off the field. We want to continue that. And again, I can't thank all of you enough for being here. It's turned into quite an event. All of you are very helpful in making this happen and being a part of the support that we have, and the excitement that we had a year ago. And we're not talking about repeating. We're not talking about defending. We're talking about beat Indy. Beat Indianapolis. That's where all the focus and attention and energy is right now. So our guys work really hard all season, and we'll get these young guys in here as soon as their high school careers end. Thanks again. Go Eagles.